like you all to close your eyes and remember the most terrible decision you made as a teenager. Now, it might have been the exam you didn't go to, or the party that you did go to, or someone you trusted that you shouldn't have, or maybe someone you didn't. And now imagine that you can take that back, that you can start over and get a different outcome. You can open your eyes now. A few years ago, that would have seemed an almost impossible thing to suggest. But today, we are able to offer our young people an opportunity to immerse themselves in a virtual world and try out real-world problems, but without the real-world consequences. Now, neurologists generally agree that our resilient brain, our rational brain, isn't really formed until we're about 25 years old. This means that young people are in a very vulnerable position and likely to make some very bad decisions. A recent UK report showed that the age of first criminal offences was averaging at 24, and the most common age for a criminal offence was 15 years of age. 9 years later, 47% had reoffended, and the chronic reoffenders, 77% of them started their criminal career at age between 10 and 17. Now, just because they reoffended didn't mean they went on to have a life of crime, but it certainly affected their life opportunities. As adults, we think with the prefrontal cortex. This is the forward part of the brain. I'm trying to get the slide on. The forward part of the brain, which is responsible for long-term consequences, planning, risk-taking. It's probably why we pay our mortgages and get pensions. It's the boring grown-up thing to do. But for our young people, they think with their amygdala. So this is the prefrontal cortex, and this is a long-term consequence. Young people think with their amygdala, the short-term consequences, instant gratification. You know the kind of thing, chocolates over vegetables, watching TV instead of doing your homework. And the connections between these two parts of the brain are not fully developed. And so often young people don't so much think their thoughts as feel their thoughts. And it's sad to see that many children find themselves in dire situations because they hadn't yet worked out the consequences of their actions. And so young people need to use their emotional experiences to build this kind of thinking so they can better assess risk and express themselves and be better prepared for uncomfortable situations. Now, this tends to happen at a time when they're going through education in school. So how does this affect their learning? Well, many people have looked into the ways that children learn, and educationalists and psychologists have often extolled the virtues of play and creativity. Playing is an integral part of being human. It's what we all do. It's something we enjoy. It creates social bonds, it breaks down barriers. It's something we associate with children, and yet something that stays with us all through our adult lives. And people who make time for play report that they are healthier and happier. So playing hard, working hard is the way to go. Young people are able to use play to express themselves, to try out new ideas in a risk-free environment. Around about the turn of the century, some pioneers were thinking about how to make education more useful to young people. And they recognised this natural way of learning, this playing way of learning, and called it the play way. But it wasn't until 1967 and the publication of the Plowman Report that generally in this country, play became the centre of learning for young people. But this was primarily in junior schools. I remember in my school, a theatre company coming in and being asked to be a bird and fly around the stage. And I thought this was absolutely fantastic. It was wonderful. This was playing in a lesson and it was allowed. But what about older children? Recently, Sir Ken Robinson, veteran TED talker and educationalist, pointed out that our secondary school system is not fit for purpose. It was designed for a time of the Industrial Revolution. And now, post-Industrial Revolution, we need the so-called softer skills, high flexibility and adaptability, emotional intelligence. Many older children struggle to learn because the way we are teaching them is directly contradicting the way they naturally learn. So, we find ourselves in a digital age, and our young people have digital digits. They don't know any different. Take a look at this slide. What do you see? Lazy teenager, obsessive gamer, antisocial behaviour, possibly even addiction. It seems to us today that our young people would rather be looking at their screen than engaging with the real world. But in reality, they're engaging with their peers and in the world of their generation. They're creating social bonds and forming networks. Transitioning into adulthood is really hard. And as they begin their independent journey away from their primary caregivers, the need to belong to a tribe or a group, to be liked, to be valued, becomes really important to young people. And this can cause undue peer pressure. Now, I'm not advocating that we teach everything in cyberspace, or that we ignore the effects of obsessive gaming or addiction, but that we recognise that we can't teach with the technology of our generation because it won't match the experience that our young people have of their world. Every generation has its technology, and the virtual world is their world. It's one that they're comfortable in, just as we love our new TVs and new videos. But the content does matter. Douglas Adams said, any technology that's around when we are born is new and natural, it's natural and is the way the world works. Any technology that's around when we're between 15 and 35 is exciting and we could possibly get a career in it. Anything that's invented after we're 35 is considered unnatural and we really struggle with it. So once we've accepted the technology, when the medium is no longer the message, where does that leave us? It leaves us with the content and making the content good, making it worthwhile, making it useful. Many theatre practitioners and creative artists have adopted the immersive technology and tried to use it to create really positive experiences for young people. But right now, the most influence comes from the games industry. Now we know that these social world environments, these virtual worlds and gaming worlds have proved to be a good indicator of creativity. Many studies have shown that. But how do we make them useful in the same way that a good piece of theatre or a good book creates that wonder, makes you question, challenge, makes you rethink your values and your beliefs, makes you challenge authority? Some games we know are not doing that at all. What they're doing is hooking young people in by rewarding them with points for hitting the right button, or punishing them, taking away points for not hitting the right button. This is called operant conditioning. And it's the same as rapping someone on the knuckles when they don't know the times table. So this is not genuine game or immersive world experience. It's not interesting to the human brain. It's just an addictive hook to try and get people to play more and more and more. Good theatre, good books have character and storyline, and we engage with them. When I was about 12, I was taken to a theatre to see a production about the woolen mills of Victorian England. Now, if that had been a lesson in history, I would have thought that was incredibly boring. But this was a beautiful piece of theatre, really well crafted. And the story that stood out to me was that of a young girl who went to work with a red hair ribbon in the mill, aged 12. As she bent down to pick up a bobbin, her hair got caught in the loom and she was thrown into the machine. This was just amazing to me. I hadn't read it in a book, I'd seen it, but more than just seeing it, I had felt it. I had learnt it in the emotional part of my brain. So can we use these immersive technologies to do the same thing? Can we get together with the games producers to create really good, enriching experiences for young people? Because we need to give young people a voice. We need to legitimise the way that they see the world. There are very many challenges out there, not made any easier by the fact that young people have communication technology and social networks in their bedroom, 2 a.m. in the morning, where we as adults are not seeing what's going on. And they are being put under pressure to do things or respond to things in a way that we've never seen before. So perhaps we can take a technology that they love and are really familiar with, and we can create that technology with all the richness of a really good piece of theatre or art with character and story and challenge. And maybe we can create something that provides them with a means of trying things out, purposing the games to have a branching narrative so that they can try out those real world problems and get to do them over and over again to build their resilience, so that when the negative messages come, or when they're asked to do things they're uncomfortable with, they will have the self-esteem and the knowledge and the practice to be able to say no. So, don't kick your kid off the computer just yet. There is an opportunity to use the technology for good. And if we all get familiar with that technology, maybe we can work together to create something that provides a strong platform for resilience, safer and productive lives. That's got to be an idea worth sharing. Thank you.